Good morning, everyone. Hello. I have got the pleasure of introducing three experts on hybrid urban planning, and you are now welcome to probably the best district panel in these 3 days, with all our respects to the rest of the people, because what we are going to talk is about how are we going to live in the future in our cities. So talking about the future of the cities, we've got, as I said, three experts. I'm going to start with Nayara Vegara. Nayara Vegara is Vice President of Fundación Metrópoli. She's got a PhD in the Architectural Association in London. She's in charge of the office of London of Fundación Metrópoli, and they are going to introduce themselves through a slide, so you will enjoy better from them. But also we've got Roger Orriols, main architect of Roa Architects. Actually, they've got a booth here in district, so you can get more information about their work, and they work also national and internationally, as three of them they do. And he is now working in many urban regeneration projects here in Catalonia. He knows exactly what's going on in the area. And also we have Mr. Pablo Molina from Garrigues Lawyers, international firm of lawyers. I think everybody must know who is Garrigues, because they are one of the best companies in the world. And Pablo will talk about how things make it happen, how things could be happening in this kind of hybrid urban moments. So I'm going to allow them to go and speak about what they do, who are they, and on a slide that I will ask the technical team, please, to start with Nayara's one. Nayara, cuando tú miras, en cuanto aparezca. I don't know if you have the... In any case, what the main question that you may also ask yourselves is, what is hybrid urban planning? Because as you may know, there is a lot of talking and blah blah in terms of planning and how we create the cities in the future. I must say that I am also an architect and a master planner working in Chapman Taylor, so we do a lot of master planning and architecture and interiors. But now I think we have the slide. So Nayara, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time, and then we carry on.
Thank you. It is a great pleasure to be here today. In Metrópoli, we design future cities. One element that I would like to communicate today within the concept of this panel is that when we think, when we research, and when we design future cities, one key element is scale. And a scale in a sense that we need to encourage for multi-scalar dialogues in order to push sustainable and resilient developments. Our expertise in Metrópoli is to identify strategic urban visions for cities and for regions. And in this process, the key element in this is to identify opportunity projects for these cities. We were born 26 years ago at the University of Pennsylvania, where through an academic project, we selected 20 cities around the world, and we asked the question, why are some cities more competitive than others? Why some projects work and others don't? And the result was our philosophy of how we think and how we designed in our office. It's called territorial intelligence, and it's based that we've learned in this process that when we want to design future cities, instead of focusing on the deficits of the city, we need to identify the unique elements of this context. We need to identify what are the components of excellence that are the strengths of the city. So we based our strategies on discovering these elements. It could vary from being environmental elements like a river that sometimes we might not evaluate like a key asset. We can also, like cultural aspects, socioeconomic elements, patterns, networks. There's a big range of variety of what a component of excellence could be. But the main goal is to define that future vision in relationship to that specific territory. We believe in our office in Metropoli that cities that have visions have the magnetism to attract not just talent, but also investment, but it also opens opportunity to have more flexible ways to deal with administration, and it also really opens the doors to tackle big challenges as sustainability. So just as a brief reference on this slide that is shown above us, this is an image of Madrid at a metropolitan scale. And these nodes that you see in reddish color are suggestions of future developments in that metropolitan centrality that are going to become sort of like gates for this future vision of Madrid. This is done in a research called Madrid Innovation Lab, as a research that is fostering the research towards Madrid 2040. With this image, I just wanted to share a glimpse of how actually within this scale of the metropolitan vision, these nodes are actually suggesting different projects at the scale of the districts, at the scale of the streets. It also is suggesting the transformation of some vehicular roads. I'm not going to go into detail, but for me it was these sort of dialogues across a scale. And to just reply very briefly to what would hybrid urban planning would be, from my perspective, is that importance to understand the dialogue across different scales and the synergies that you find in order to respond to really fostering sustainable projects. And if I would have to describe it in one sentence, it would be the challenge of placemaking while city making.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So please, Roger, introduce yourself, and if you have time, explain to us what is hybrid urban from your point of view, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks to the District Congress to give us the opportunity to be in this roundtable and such a great colleagues and moderator. My name is, as you said, Roger Orriols. I'm founder and CEO and principal architect at ROA Arquitectura. We are a hub of architects placed in Sabadell, 20 kilometers in the north of Barcelona. And we are driven by the force of sustainability, circular design, and at least to find net positive impact to the society, to the environment, and to the economics. And in the last 18 years, we have the chance, we have 18 years old, our company was born in 2006. In the last 18 years, we had the chance to participate in several urban regeneration plans. And let me explain it with an example. In the last 200 years, the urbanism has been thought in a different way that we are thinking the cities and the territories nowadays. So the cities were planned with a sprawl conception of the land occupation. So it means that also they separate the uses in very clearly. So the industrial areas were in the surroundings of the cities, separately from the residential, from the commercial, and all this marks a plot and a mark on the land. So this, in the last, to explain it with the image I have on the back, in the Catalonia was on the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th, one of the most important textile producers of the country. And because of that, it was really interesting that the growth of the industrial sector finishes with the second part of the 20th century, that all the industrials, because of the globalization, they close, they break down, so they had to close the doors. And what happens? With these last 100 years, the growth of the city has absorbed these industrial areas that were in the surroundings, passing to be part of the city, in the inside of the city. And what happens in the last 100 years? The capacity of the cities has win to the extension or the sprawl extension of the growth of the city. So, and this plot, it was really interesting that in the past 100 years, the absorption, the industrial areas that has been absorbed by the cities has become as well two things. One, they are in the middle of the cities. Two, they are big empty containers of activity because they close the door. So this has been a very a chance and a challenge for us to convert and transform these industrial areas. And the question is how? With hybrid urban concepts. So these hybrid urban concepts has to be thought in different way, in the meaning that how to combine physical way of planning the urbanism with digital way of think and inhabit the cities. So this is an example of how both things get closed, and if you want, we can discuss it further, and I would say let's talk it in the next minutes.
Well, Pablo, let's go to put some theoretically reality truth in all of this, because it is truth. But from your point of view, well, you talk about how all these things are happening, or from your point of view, please go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you all for inviting. Thank you for the district for inviting us here. And thank you for my colleagues in the panel, because it's a great pleasure to have been able to prepare this panel with them and to engage in discussions with them. I'm, as Jorge said, I'm a lawyer. I'm also a planner, and I work in the urban planning specialty, urban planning of the Public Law Department in Garrigues, together with some very brilliant colleagues, some of whom are in the audience now. I'm the guy that is in the trench. I am the guy that has to say no to most of the things that all these brilliant planners are thinking about. No? So it is always the lawyer that has to say no. This cannot happen. But we are also, as lawyers and planners, we're also thinking ahead. And when we think about cities, when we think about our laws, when we think about how do we do planning, we need to take into account that our society is not the same society that existed when planning was invented or was thought about, nor the same society that existed when our legal system was first conceived. And I wanted to represent that through this image. This is Barcelona, the Eixample of Barcelona, conceived by Cerdà in the 19th century. We live here. We plan in accordance to this plan. We plan in accordance to a methodology developed by Cerdà, but we live a whole another different life. We buy, and that is represented by the Amazon sign. We live digital lives. We need to think cities, and that is my concept about hybrid planning. When we look at cities, we are looking at the physical support, but we are also looking at something, at a layer which is far more difficult to apprehend. It is a layer that deals with social relations, economic relations, environmental relations. These are layers of interdependencies that guarantees the success or failure of a city or of an urban design. And that is exactly what is so interesting from what Roger and Nayara told us, because we are all thinking along the same lines, coming from different places. Now we are going to see if we can put all those things together and wrap them up with an optimistic message.
Well, this is fantastic, because I am very lucky to have these 3 points of view. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but the good thing about this panel is that these 3 professionals, they work in 3 different scales, but at the same time in all of them. So we were discussing how to deal with this hybrid urban planet, and we just decided to talk about, I'm going to ask Roger about how they cope and design and work as a team in terms of mixed use. Because when someone listens hybrid, it's a mix of something, and starting with the planning now is getting very complicated, because mixed use is not putting mixed uses together. So your point of view on how do you deal in your industrial project and all the things and the planners and also the social environment, what is called mixed use. How do you deal with it, please?
It's a very complex
I know.
asset, but in our point of view, we have a very dynamic society, and as Pablo said, Nayara, the urban planning has been thought in a static way. So we have to understand that the hybrid urban planning must be dynamic, flexible, liquid, and using this kind of concepts and, of course, attending to the real needs of the society in constant change. So in terms of that, if we plan static things, we'll get untrendy in the next few years. And in the example I show you in Sabadell, is a good example, because I think one way of abording this is with complexity. The image we show, it's on a electric superstation for Endesa. And they want to reconnect with the city. It's been an industrial area that has been absorbed by the city that wants to connect and to interact with the city. So they had to break the walls, interact physically, visually, and also in the intangible thing with data. And how to do this? It will be a system, it's a system, but it's a system that doesn't want to be only a system. So talking about social and infrastructure that want to be social infrastructures that wants to become urbanism and new architecture. How to do this? Interacting with the surroundings, interacting with the playful areas for the citizens. All the intervention is around the electricity. It's a superstation that it's supplying energy to Sabadell and wants to let know to the society that it's about energy. So all the citizens will be able to produce energy around the building, and here comes the digital and the physical. They will produce energy physically, but they will know with data how much electricity they will produce. So they get rid of, they will get conscious of what they are doing. And more with the work with water, the water that will interact with and self-sufficient process of the water life cycle analysis will be part of it. And as well, in the building, we'll be able to put cultural activity, but as well, 100 professionals will be able to work in them for their own company, but also a 100 workplace for co-work. So it means the hybrid ways of work adapted to an hybrid way of use an unusual system, an old system. So all these things, and also the building or the plot area allows to connect with the city visually with a new way of, new slow path, bicycle path, and also connected with the train station, and also to connect to neighborhoods that were interrupted by the topography. So how much complexity is here? So the way that people can connect, can work, can hybrid work, the balance between hybrid work and hybrid life, no? And all these things must to be think and how the people interact with this reality. No? So this is a kind to, it's trying to, as you said, the excellent components of the big scale. We are working in smaller scale. Nayara is working in the bigger scale. And
I mean, actually, when you say mixed use, I mean, for me, at the metropolitan scale, it's an essential element to think about districts that actually promote living, working, and playing within these hearts of their own district, because then we create a more balanced urban structure that is not, we reduce dependencies and we increment complementarity. I think when I was looking at your image, one thing that I always think is very important to bring when we are talking about mixed use, we need livable spaces. We need these sort of like vibrant spaces, and how to create vibrant spaces. Also, not only the activity, but I think one of the important elements is the street. And I think the street is, for me, that connector between the architecture and the urban scale. And I think in our office, we've done a lot of projects that are actually based on mobility structures, just to also open opportunities for that pedestrian sort of role that we have in the cities, becoming more pedestrian-friendly environments. Even as an example, because I saw that you had a lovely sort of public realm, and the urban quality is the key attractor to really create those social spaces. We are very strategic sometimes of how to transform vehicular roads into, for example, eco-boulevards. We were talking about the digital layer, and eco-boulevard is not just a road that reduces the traffic a little bit, but actually is key. It actually, when you select well, obviously within the structure, but it allows for connectivity at either side of the street, pedestrian crossings. It allows for the insertion of public transport. It allows for landscaping. It helps with decarbonization strategies, which not only happens in buildings, but also in the streetscapes. It also helps with the insertion of digital layers, urban solutions, and as overall, that connector between the scale of creating these cores of the neighborhoods, but at the same time having a city that is working, that is connected, and that actually is enjoyable.
I don't have to ask you what I was going to ask you in terms of how you put the macro scale, the regional, or the cities into the scale that Roger is talking about. So it's very clear that it is not easy for you to explain to everyone, especially the people, the investors and everything, but it's working from all the scale that you mentioned. Pablo, any views on how to stop these people on doing things that is very difficult to put in paper?
No, not on how to stop them, not on how to make it possible. And our current challenge is that what they have been talking, what Roger and Nayara have been talking, is about relations, is about Roger has even used the word liquid, no? Liquid planning, liquid relationships, liquid, and Nayara was talking about the possibility of using the public realm in all senses. That calls for quite informal surroundings, informal in the sense, not in the physical sense, but in the legal sense. That calls for, we need to go beyond our normal accepted schemes of planning. Situations like, or determinations of the plan like a certain amount of commercial use or a certain amount of residential use do not make sense any longer. On the one part, they do not make sense because we do not know what are those uses about. We do not know any longer what commercial use refers to. We do not know in our current situation, in our current world, what is a shop, which is a concept that is so ingrained in our philosophy that we still talk about commercial use, but the commercial activity takes place elsewhere in several different forms. The same goes with residential. We have a lot of different residential uses. We could all agree that residential is just sleeping in one place for one night, but then we have all the different variances on how this is happening. So this illustrates that we can no longer use normal planning concepts or static planning concepts. We need to use flexible concepts, liquid concepts, and one step beyond, we need to use adaptative concepts. We need to have plans that are flexible and are adjusting to the reality. How do we do that? On the one hand, as Roger and Nayara were manifesting, we have the capacity to study the reality on a different way to what we had done before. The picture of Nayara illustrates that perfectly well. We have the capacity to study the reality in real time and study the relationships of the reality. And that is also what Roger was referring to. That's on the one hand. But on the other hand, if we use that data to permanently adjust plans and flexibilize plans, which kind of plans do we have? Rules and regulations are by definition static. So that calls for a different level of planning, different level of rules, a different level of legal approaches, which is confusing.
Well, very clear. I just wonder, we have 10 minutes left or something less. Just wonder if someone wants to ask any question to the people in the panel, or we just carry on because we have another question which is tricky, and is from your point of view, if you could ask something from your professional experience to the, not to the political people or to the society, whatever, it's something clear, some kind of conclusion of what, as you are working in the cities of the future, what do you think is missing in some of the places? Because we went through a scale and macro scale, we went through mixed use, and we went through laws. We thought we didn't have time to speak about this, but I would like you to give like a personal point of view together with your professional in terms of what you miss from your scale in terms of planning. Well, this is a surprise.
Thank you for the surprise. I like surprise. In an unpredictable society, that's the point.
It is changing all the time, so it's a very tricky question, but...
No. A very important thing is how we use data. We understand data, but we have to use it in the proper manner. And how we shape the data. And I think this is an interesting thing to be solved, how to shape or what is new uses, what does it mean mixed uses in the real time, but because maybe it don't have to be a proper, a strictly definition. It should be something wicked, something that goes changing, like the water goes through the river, only looking the things that will go further, not watching behind, really, no? So I would say use properly data, understand that the people has a dynamic way of life, and be able to implement this dynamism in the urbanism. So the urbanism, the hybrid urban planning must be open to the changes and the new challenges. So as try not to restrain the solutions of the urbanism.
Let me ask you, while you are saying the big data, how we deal with it. When we were doing planning, as Pablo said before, it was a bit, and you also, strict and regulations and land use and things like that. But now with the big data, we are not closer to the collaborative urbanism or planning where everybody can easily apply and ask, and so this is a more, these are good news because now people can also do planning. Is this something what you are saying? How do we deal with all this big information where people have access to speak to you?
Yeah, and use it properly. So if the things change, get ready for the change. And of course, enable all the people to use it and to talk with all the stakeholders. That's very important, to design together. The old plans, urban plans, are thought from the professional, from the urbanism and architecture conception. But the new urbanism must be thought from the society, with the society, and together with them. So the real needs must be put together with professionals, politicians, people, citizens, and it's the complexity that everyone gives it to it, that gives the real solutions in that moment.
Okay.
So it must be adaptable in the time.
For me, those are very, great things, so big news for us to be more sensible in terms of doing urbanism and planning together. Nayara, from your point of view?
I mean, I was thinking that actually we try to overcome these challenges, as we are trying, for example, envision future city plans. I think one of the elements that we are doing right now, one of the tests is that I would like to encourage that it happens more often, is that I will push for public-private collaborations, because I think that we didn't talk about process. We talked about outcomes, we talked about analysis, but in a way it's that process of how to push the projects, and I think I will give more value into research. So I think at the moment the way that we are developing or trying to develop our projects is that the public sector and the private sector starts much earlier in the process, from the beginning, when we are actually researching and in the process of identifying these projects. So I think that's a key element. And in our methodology, we also invite participatory processes. We invite also digital urban mapping into it. So we have the duality of technical, let's say, analysis, perceived, but is that element of collaboration and leadership that I think is what it will make possible all of the innovations that we need to apply to have new tools to really confront the challenges of this dynamic state.
So from your point of view, you are seeing that as good news in an optimistic way of that public and private are getting more consensus, more and into starting in the early stages of the process, no? Especially from your point of view. Well, those are very good news too. Pablo, any
let
kind
me
of...
finish shortly because we are running out of time, very shortly. What would I say? I think we're on the verge of a different way of doing planning. Collaboration with the private sector, collaboration with citizens has to happen in another moment, as Nayara was suggesting. It has to happen, but it has to happen in another moment. But mainly, we lack methodologies. We can devise new laws. We can devise new rules. We can devise new plans. So we lack methodologies to calculate them. So I would say to Roger and to Nayara, as architects, as technicians, as planners, I would say, like this famous sentence, no? Give us the tools and we will finish the job.
All right, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's a short time, and you don't know how many discussions we had during the previous days in order to try to be the more, academic and personal and experience and all this. I need to thank these three experts, as I call them, because they are working especially in very different scales, in very different environments, and I think I'm very proud of being moderating this. I also would like to even say something about what they are saying, but everything is been done. We try to do our best, and I have to thank you, all of them, and especially you for attending us. I don't see a lot of people watching their mobile, so thank you for being so brave, and thank you for your attention. Well, good morning, everyone.